Greetings. Hope everyone is enjoying their day off. It's not our Jewish New Year, but there are still some parallels to draw. It doesn't have to be the New Year per se to be grateful. Grateful for a wonderful year with our great president, Donald J. Trump, who's truly making America great again. So much to be grateful for, the economy, the markets, the tax cuts, the recognition of Jerusalem as our capital, the standing up to the whole UN, and freeing Shalom Mordechai Rubashkin. Right? There's probably a lot more that I'm not remembering, and it is always the appropriate thing, to be grateful and to be happy. This is a time to express that for sure. But it goes a lot deeper than that, as we're about to explain. But before I go into the deeper level that I want to share with you, that should be a message for going forward during this secular year, I do want to wish everyone well, because it doesn't have to be the New Year per se. To do that, wish everyone well and wish a refuah shlema, right? Refuah shlema bimheira to all the never-Trumpers, although I do fear it's a terminal condition, but al yimnat merachim, we could always pray for them, and they should certainly pray for themselves. And this has to do with part of what I want to get into in my message, is that a person could always ruin something for themselves just by their lousy attitude. A lousy attitude could ruin the most wonderful things. Right? There are definitely hard facts on paper as to how the Trump presidency has been good, but even if it's not as great as we think it is, being pessimistic in itself ruins it. First and foremost, for yourself. A person could be surrounded by great wealth and fame and have everything that anyone could ever want in this world and still be miserable. Why? Just for the sake of being miserable. And it just goes to show you could just ruin something for no reason. Be miserable just because you're miserable, not because there's a certain thing that you're lacking. You're just, for whatever reason, unhappy, whether that reason is real or totally perceived. You're equally as miserable, whether it's for real reasons or imagined reasons. Misery is misery, and misery ruins everything. The miserable person is miserable, whether his misery is for real or imagined reasons. And that's the sad thing, that a person could, in a hard factual way, have everything that he needs and even more and be in a better position, but he just ruins it for himself because he's miserable. You never-Trumpers, right? You're just ruining things for yourself by being miserable, right? But it goes more than that, right? There is the concept of self-fulfilling prophecy, right? And it's even true in economics. The market responds to pessimism. Optimism, pessimism affects the market. Your own pessimism is not just ruining it for yourselves, right? And for people that might, catch your bad mood, because bad moods are contagious, sadly. I find that all mental illnesses are just as contagious as physical illnesses. So the fact that you're going to ruin it for yourselves and whoever you manage to spread your mood to, right? But you actually could ruin it for people who are in good moods and who are appreciating what God has given us, right? Because the bad attitude does affect the market. The economy responds to pessimism, right? It's a real negative force that ruins things. Part of pessimism is what we call ayin hara. The evil eye has its roots in pessimism. It's a real negative energy that hurts others. Hurts others that may not share your pessimism, but because you share space with them, it affects the economy that you share with them and affects them themselves. And it's something to be mindful of if you really care about other people, right? But it goes even deeper than that, right? That God responds to pessimism. HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells us, Hashem says He's going to bring all the curses upon us because we did not serve Him out of joy and being appreciative of all the goodness that He gave us. Bad attitude. Pessimism is its own sin. Right? It's because it's lack of gratitude. That's why it's a sin. You're not appreciating what God has given you. So God responds. God responds to that. Right? The Zohar says that's the Zohar says this. That's why it's important to do everything besimcha. Ivdu as Hashem besimcha. Serve God with love, right? Because with happiness and joy. Because He mirrors you. Yeah, it's God just throwing your attitude back at you, just like He throws your actions back at you, measure for measure. He throws your attitude back at you. So it's not out of vengeance, right? But it says, you're all grouchy pants. Well, listen, that negative energy, I just boomerang it right back at you. So that's why the people you have to realize that gratitude and optimism is the order of the day, to appreciate what you do have and to reinforce that the positivity should increase and spread and positively affect. Because sometimes you can have a lot of good, but it just doesn't connect. It doesn't hit, like a lot of money, but the money doesn't go on a good investment. It doesn't get spent on something that lasts. It gets spent on something that an investment that fails, or it gets spent on something that gets destroyed by a hurricane. There's the goodness, but to make the goodness not just to appreciate it, but to amplify and to cause it to be perpetuated and to cause it to settle, right, in a place where it'll be lasting, settle in the right place in a way that'll be, you get most bang for the buck and it settles the most and it lasts the most, is with optimism and joy. And optimism and joy is all rooted in gratitude, being grateful to HaKadosh Baruch Hu for all the goodness that He's given you. Right? And the grateful person is the happy person. And Chazal say, Ezu Asher Hasameach Bechalko. Right? And I want to openly, decry things that I've read, aside from the lack of appreciation of what Hashem has done through us, through President Trump. People are not appreciative of that, but people just calling the celebrations around the liberation of Mordechai Rubashkin exaggerated, over the top, too much, time to end it. Ridiculous. Gratitude is the most appropriate thing, and you stretch it for as long as it could go, especially over there where there was a real miscarriage of justice. I'm not saying he didn't break any laws, and people keep on talking, but he broke laws. Of course he broke laws, but everyone agrees that there was a severe miscarriage of judgment that is openly, has open telltale signs of anti-Semitism. And of course we should be happy because it's called justice was done. After all, the president did not acquit him totally. He wasn't pardoned. He got a commuted sentence. Justice was done. We have to be happy that justice gets done. We should be appreciative. Be appreciative in the happiness of any Jew, any fellow Jew, please. It is so correct and so right that people were so joyous, and the joy keeps on going. It should never be forgotten and never cease, because it's called to be constantly cognizant of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's kindness, and that HaKadosh Baruch Hu ultimately causes justice to be done. So of course, my most first message for 2018 is to be perpetually grateful, perpetually optimistic. Never Trumpers, get on board. What's the worst thing that'll happen? You'll be happy. God forbid. You'll be happy. Right? World's not coming to an end. Right? But you might end your own world for yourselves with your own misery, and you might take a few other people with you if your misery becomes contagious and generates a real negative energy that ruins it for anyone else. So who's the villain now? Really? Anyway, but there's one more thing that's going on right now, and sadly, because it's a secular holiday, it's not a Jewish holiday, but Lamasa, people's attentions are, right now we're distracted with leisure, and sometimes leisure is really a terrible distraction, and we are not being mindful of what's going on in Iran. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu is now doing another major thing that has so many potentials, so many different options down the timeline of how this can unfold positively, whether Iran will fall, and Iran has been the number one oppressor of human rights, the number one supporter of terrorism, number one oppressor of women. It's amazing that the leftists just want anarchy. They don't want justice. Talk about social justice. I don't know for who, right? Because these type of people that they bind with, like Linda Sarsour, right? These types are the most oppressing of women, most oppressing of human rights. And most supportive of terrorism. That terrorism hurts innocent civilians, right? So the left is ignoring what's going on in Iran. Of course, they like, they're not Islamophobic. They love Muslims and Muslim oppression, of course, right? But I'm talking about us. We're a bit distracted with what's going on in the holidays. We should be demanding that the hypocritical UN immediately have an emergency session to condemn what's going on in Iran. After all, there's a total communications blackout, and that doesn't mean because we're having too much fun, so can't let the world see that we're having so much fun in Iran because we don't want too many people to immigrate here because it's too much fun here. I mean, that's obviously not what's going on. Right? There's a blackout of communication. We can't see what's going on. There should be an immediate, to immediately condemn what's going on, all the human rights violations that go on and violation of rights of women that goes on perpetually in Iran. We should demand the UN to immediately take action in whatever way that impotent organization takes action, right? But and of course, in doing that, you expose once again the hypocrisy of the UN, and maybe it will be finally defunded. Bimhera b'yameinu. And of course, in the best case scenario is Iran will be liberated, and the same people of Iran who don't want to be funding terrorism, right, and don't want to be oppressing women and don't want to be oppressing themselves, will be a wonderful, prosperous nation on great terms with Israel, like it was in the days of the Shah. Prosperous and on great terms with Israel and the rest of the Western world. The prosperity for all of us. But there's a message here, that I want to share with you. That just, furthers our line of reasoning about the idea of responding to God, responding to what He's doing, responding, right? That first and foremost with gratitude and joy and optimism that it will continue, right? That's responsible, but there's another response that's demanded from us. If He's doing so much good for us, we have to do more for Him in return. That's the way it works in a relationship. The two people always have to be at the same speed. If a wife does something special for a husband, a wife, female, yes, that is the definition of marriage, right? If a wife, female, does something special for a husband, male, right? And makes a very special dinner. The minute he sees it, he has to either promise to take her out later that week or tippy-toe out and buy her something and bring it home. That's the way it has to work. You have to reciprocate. You have to be keep the same pace. If a person's doing more then the other person has to catch up and also do more. And that's what love is all about, keeping the same pace, right? And matching goodwill for goodwill. Right? If the Rebbe Shalom has done so much chesed, right? This year, and particularly with the recognition of Yerushalayim, particularly of having a president that's willing to stand by Israel and against the whole world, right? And freeing Mordechai Rubashkin, etc., right? We have to do more for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Our davening has to be better. Our learning has to be better. Everything has to be better. And with this, I want to share with you, that I was an infant at the time, hardly a toddler. During 1967, I have no memories of it. Very young, to say the least. Not even a toddler yet. What we call a toddler. But I was told by many people that was amazing. In 6 days, the Israeli army, with the open miracles from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, no other explanation for it, in 6 days defeated their enemies from all sides, liberated Yerushalayim. There's been nothing as big as 1967 since 1967. Nothing, really. And everyone thought Mashiach was coming. That's when the Arabs, the Muslim, was really quaking and trembling before the Jewish people. It was a fulfillment of the blessing. Your fear will be over all nations. People honestly thought Mashiach's coming because we had liberated Yerushalayim, liberated the Makom HaMikdash. People thought it was time to rebuild the third temple. That's what everyone thought. There was such enthusiasm and euphoria, and really, it's never been as good as it was since 1967. So my Rosh Yeshiva, Zecher Tzaddik Rav Yaakov Weinberg, told me, you should know, Yochanan, everyone thought Mashiach was coming. Everyone thought. It just, it wasn't such a thing. In 2,000 years, it wasn't such a thing. There was never such a miracle. I don't know if the Chashmonayim, right, Hanukkah we usually pass through, if they had such a miraculous military campaign like there was during the 6-Day War, right? Their campaigns lasted months, if not years, and with heavy casualties, etc., etc., etc. Really, this was amazing. 1967 was one of the greatest miracles of Jewish history, right, as far as Rabim biad ma'atim, Giborim biad chaloshim, Rabim biad ma'atim. Really, as far as a military campaign, I dare say, that it was a bigger miracle than the military campaigns of Hanukkah. Now, Hanukkah still remains a religious holiday because there was also spiritual rejuvenation. There was the revealed miracle of the oil that Max burn for 8 days. There are certain spiritual dimensions aside from the military campaign. So that's why Hanukkah remains more special than Yom Yerushalayim that commemorates 1967 because of the revealed divine aspect that was more revealed, whereas the divinity still remains somewhat concealed. But I'm just saying, militarily speaking, as far as a military campaign, I think the 6 Day War is a much greater military success than any of the campaigns of Hanukkah. Right? It's just amazing, right? Just like I said, by Hanukkah there were other miracles, like the miracle of the jug of oil. There was, the temple was renovated. Right? We didn't achieve that in 1967. We didn't rebuild the temple, but as Hanukkah they did. I mean, the temple was, put back into use. They got the idol out, purified it. So that's why Hanukkah is bigger, because of the spiritual side. The spiritual side, which included the resuming of the Avodah in the Beis HaMikdash, which we weren't zocheh to. But from a military perspective, greatest miracle campaign, probably miraculous military campaign, greatest miraculous military campaign probably in our history. Probably. Go check. Right? Amazing. So my Rosh Yeshiva told me everyone thought Mashiach's coming, and the next step is, either the Beis HaMikdash is going to come down from it, or we're going to rebuild the Beis HaMikdash. The Arabs were scared of us. Our situation as a nation on earth had never been better as far as people respecting and being afraid of us. Right? It's amazing, right? So why didn't Mashiach come, I asked him. So Rebbe, why didn't Mashiach come? He said, I'll tell you why. Shonim ketikunim, because people just went back to their old routine. After God did such a miracle, and everyone was, really excited, but the davening wasn't any different, and the learning wasn't any different, and the Shabbos wasn't any different. People just went back to the old grind as far as their spiritual lives. Their spiritual lives didn't improve one iota, or it was temporarily, but it went back to the grind. That's what he said. So God says, you go back to the grind, I go back to the grind. You think life in exile and the way, the diluted way, the diluted enthusiasm is normal, fine. You get it right back at boomerang. He follows you like a shadow. He just gives you a taste of your own attitude. And that's what I have to say. My additional message for 2018, aside from the gratitude and aside from the optimism and the joy, that we have to now strengthen ourselves. We have to be more serious about our davening, more serious about our Torah learning, more serious about perfecting our character. If God is doing so much for us, and it's only the beginning, like I say, like what's happening in Iran could be huge right now, huge. Now what's going to decide whether it's going to be something huge, something small, something mediocre, or just, God forbid, the regime will just mow down everyone with machine guns like it did in 2009 and not get condemned by the UN. Just mow everyone down and things go back to being a terror-sponsoring state that's calling for the annihilation of Israel and the U.S., much to the joy of the leftists, Yamach Shemam, God grant them a refuah shlema, right? What's going to determine how it's going to unfold? What are we going to do? Right? We have to be grateful for what Hashem has done so far. We have to respond with not just with gratitude, joy, and optimism for the future. We also have to do more. If He's doing so much for us, tremendous revealed miracles that we haven't seen in a long time, never been like this since 1967, never. Right? This is amazing. Never been like this since 1967. Right? We have to give God back. We have to give something back. We're in a relationship with Him, especially as His chosen people. He's, as it were, we are metaphorically the spouse of the beloved in Shir HaShirim, a heterosexual relationship. Right? Absolutely. Right? Right? That He's the man where as it were, the Jewish people, the collective is like His wife. Right? We have to be same pace. If He's doing so much, we got to reciprocate. So I'm calling us for 2018, gratitude and for what's been done, being happy with it and being optimistic about it, that only better things are coming. But more and all, we have to want to give HaKadosh Baruch Hu something back. The learning has to be more serious. The chasadim has to be more serious. The davening has to be more serious. And let's strengthen each other to really be worthy of these blessings, and not just to be worthy of what's been given, but to try to be worthy of it unfolding even more and more and more positively with the final coming of Mashiach Tzidkenu. B'mheira b'yameinu amen.